Kale muntu wange nkwebaza okubanga okyangoberera nze Muzungu David onako olwaleero nkyaziza muganda wange mu kisaawe kino eky'endongo agenda tubuuzaako. Hello Mr Mo.
Hello, how are you, David?
I'm fine, how are you?
Nice to see you again.
Thank you. When did we last meet?
I think we went together to the village, to deep in the village to go and look for music because we were both music lovers. You like tapes, Kadongokamu tapes. I like records, and we had the opportunity to go meet somebody that had both, and so it was a very nice trip. It took us a few hours to get there, but while we were there, we were surprised to see so many tapes under a nice mango tree. So we spent a few nice hours digging into what is your passion and my passion, and that's Uganda music.
Okay. Before, had you ever met such?
I have met people that have a lot of tapes or records. Yeah, I mean, I met a few, but it's not like there are many. So maybe a few times that I experienced
thousands of tapes.
No, I mean that many tapes. I know there's a man in Chibui Roundabout who has a lot of tapes. Of course, he has a shop there. But to find a private person with so many tapes, and I mean, it looked like he must have had at least like 1,500 or 2,000 tapes. So that was quite amazing to see so much tape somewhere deep in the village. You don't expect it there.
I remember he told us that he was in that business. It is technology which technology. It's the one which forced him out of the business to other activities.
That's true, and of course it was very good of him to keep it, because he could also have thought like, what, now we're living in the age of MP3s, and so what's the point of keeping all these tapes? But I think this man is also very passionate about music, you can tell.
So Mr. Mo, have you ever got a chance of meeting such people having heritage in your home country?
Yeah, I think, in the Netherlands, we are quite good in keeping our heritage already for a long time. So there's definitely places where you can find tens of thousands of records. I mean, there are people that have, even private people, not only like, let's say, government institutions that have kept records and tapes and what have you, kept them for many years, but definitely also private people have enormous collections of, like I say, maybe 10,000 records, and then it goes back all the way to the 1920s, 1930s, up to the time that records were not made anymore, in the beginning of the 80s. So yeah, there is a real culture of preserving heritage, and it's not only government people that do that, but it's also private people like you, because you're actually also doing this. If I look at your tape collection, and you're not working for government, I mean, you're a private person, but you know the importance of your heritage, of your musical heritage.
Okay, kale bantu bange, muganda afa agamba nti ne mu ggwanga mwava mu Netherlands eriyo nayo abantu nga basekinoomo nga woolaba Muzungu David oba oliawo n'abantu abalala abeevaamu ne bakola omulimu guno okukuuma amayinja zezi records, ate era osobola n'otagulula noza ne kuzina entambi ezazi tapes. Ye anoonya mayinja, nze noonya tapes. Kale agamba nti yengeri emu gye bayiseemu okubeera nga basobola okukuuma ebintu byabwe nga bikyaliwo, naye wane ewaffe tapes zino ezisinga zagwera mukyere ne mu kasooli zino, ate ffenno tuzikozesa mu bintu ebirala. So Mr. Mo, can you give us a brief story about Ugandan music?
But Ugandan music, I mean, of course, it's a very long story, and my book is lying there, and that's like 500 pages or more, which tells at least some of the history of Ugandan music from 1962 up to 1979. So that is just, 20 years of history. So there's much more history, of course, between 1980 and now, and there's, of course, and musical history before 1962. But what I have been able to research is especially, let's say, the modern age of Uganda music. I don't know so much about the music before the 1950s, but from the 1950s onwards, I mean, I can say that I think what was really helpful in the 1950s that there was a German company that came to Uganda and they established like a recording facility in the industrial area, but they also made the records themselves. And in just 5 years' time, between 1955 and 1960, more than 6 million records were produced in that factory.
What was the name of the company?
The company was called Opel Tom Tom.
Opel Tom Tom.
Opel Tom Tom.
Yes, kati muganda waffe atugamba nti music watagulula nadda mu myaka gya 5 awo waliwo company eyajja wano nga yali yaba Germany bagiyita Opel Tom Tom. Netandika mu industrial area nga efulumya amayinja ago kwosa n'okubanga egatunda. Kale bwetu tuli mu kunyumyamu ku music we Uganda ye yawandika ekitabo kino The Soul of Uganda Through Song. Mulimu kirimu pages kumpi lukaaga 600, around 600 pages. Yakola interviews ku bayimbi ab'enjawulo n'ebintu ebyenjawulo. So Mr Mo, Opel Tom Tom was the first company here in Uganda.
Yeah.
I remember Christopher Sewaduka was one of the ambassadors.
Definitely, and Eddie Wamala, of course. Eddie Wamala was also working at that company. There were, I think, 25 to 30 people working there also. But the records that were produced there were not only songs meant for the Ugandan market, they were also for the Kenyan market, for the Tanzanian market. Even some of the records produced in Kampala went even as far as India. So when I talk about in those 5 years that they produced about 6,078,000 records. 78, that was a kind of type of records. They called them shellac records, and they were very brittle. They could easily break.
Yeah.
So in 1961, some Bazungu inventors, they came up with a record that couldn't break so easily. So in 61, those smaller ones were produced, which they called 7-inch records. And the 10-inch records, the bigger ones, which had.
Why was it like that? Why is it that they were producing records which can break so easily?
That I wouldn't know.
They wanted to multiply money?
I don't think so. I don't think there was foul play there. I think they just didn't think of it, you know. They just created that first record made of this very breakable material, but if you were careful, it would not happen. But if you just pick up that record and you're not paying any attention, yeah, then it can break. So most people that bought these records, they knew they had to be careful, treat them like babies.
I remember we were doing an interview on the late Bernardine Suga. He told us that the records used to break at a faster rate. Yeah. And that's how the whites or those who used to own those companies accumulated income.
Yeah, okay. I mean, maybe you can look at it that way, but that's a bit conspiracy thinking, and I am not so into always seeing the bad in people. So I always try to look at that people. Of course, the factory wanted to sell records. That is true. But also in America, they were making these 78s that were so easily breakable. So all over the world, that was the only type of record that was produced. So I think we should take that. Maybe Bernard Sabuga was maybe joking around a little bit, because that was just the way these things were made. And then they found out, but wait a minute, we can also make a record that doesn't break so easily. So that meant that very soon they were thinking about us, the consumers. So let's not be too harsh on the first ones that made these records. I try to be friendly and yeah.
Okay, kale tukyali ne Mr Mo munnamawulire ava mu ggwanga lya Netherlands anoonyereza ku music ono awandiika kwosa gwe ali eyo ng'olina amayinja ntuukirira tujja kutuukako tubeere nga tusobola okufuna records kati agambye nti kampani eyo ya Opera Tom Tom yakolanga amayinja naye nga gamenyeka mangu era ntegeezezzaako nyongeddeko nti wetwali ne mugenzi Bernardine Subuga Ssemmango yatugamba nti amayinja ago bano abasajja bakola ssente mu bulwagajjavu bwaffe obw'Abannayuganda ng'aba yakalikwata ejjinja ne limenyeka ate naddala n'akola ki n'aggula eddala. Mr Mo, do you remember or did you make research about the most sold record in Uganda?
Yeah, there's one record made by Christopher Sebaduka called Teresa. A very well-known song, which, according to my research, but of course you can never be totally certain because you base that on maybe an article you find in a newspaper. But I found like 2 articles in old Ugandan newspapers where Christopher Sebaduka is quoted as saying that record, Teresa, over a 10 or 12 year period sold more than 80,000 copies. 80,000 copies. Now this sounds like a lot because most records in Uganda, when they came out, they would print maybe 300 copies. If it was a hit, then they would print another 300 and maybe another 500. And so mostly records that came out in Uganda would not go beyond 500 or 600 copies. The real hits, which are also there, went maybe as far as 5,000. There is at least 4 or 5 songs that I researched on that reached that level, 5,000 to 10,000, but 80,000, that was enormous. But I think the song Teresa, if you listen to it, I think you can understand why that song became so famous. I think because it describes a woman in a very funny way, and at the same time also in a way, the way a Ugandan man would like to see his woman, you know, the way she should look like. And I think a lot of people, you know, could associate with what Christopher Sebaduka was saying. So I think it's really true that 80,000 copies were sold. There are other songs in Africa that even sold like millions of copies. I mean, there's a song called Sweet Mother that sold like millions of copies.
From South Africa?
No, from Nigeria.
From Nigeria.
Yeah, Prince Nico Mbarga. And so if in Nigeria they can sell a very big hit, millions of copies, why would it not be possible that Christopher Sebaduka sold 80,000?
Okay, kale. Mubuuziza ekibuuzo nti yali atutte obuvunaanyizibwa okubeera ng'anoonyereza ku jjinja eryasinga okubeera nga litunda. Agambye nti okusinziirira ku research gwe yakola n'amusanga mu articles ez'amawulire agaaliwo Taifa muno n'amalala agaaliwo obudde obwo, yasanga nga oluyimba Teresa ow'ebbina eddene oba ejjinja eryo lye lyasinga okutunda, nti lyatunda over emitwalo 8 ez'amayinja. Kale bw'atyo n'atugamba nti wano mu Africa waliwo ate n'abaali batunze ejjinja erisukka okutunda nga yatunda over 1 million sales, nti Prince Nico okuva e Nigeria oluyimba Sweet Mother. Kale bwe tutyo tukyali ne Mr Mo. Ejjinja mwe abatalimanyi, ejjinja lifaanana bwe riti. Ejjinja bwe riti bwe lifaanana. Zino tapes zajja oluvannyuma lw'ejjinja nga livuddewo. Kale tukyali ne Mr Mo. Mr Mo, so when we were off camera, we talked about copyright in Netherlands and how you've managed to keep your music, how you've your people, how they've managed to benefit from their music. So can you give us a brief intro about copyright?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, let me first speak a little bit about the copyright here in Uganda, because I researched that a little bit. I'm not an expert in specifically copyright in Uganda, but I know a little bit about it. I mean, the Uganda Performing Rights Society, UPRS, was started in 1968 by two singers, Steven Sempasa and Andrew Chabade. Both are still alive, sometimes even performing still. And because they realized that somehow they were losing out on the money that they could make out of their music. So here you had two musicians that were good in creating these songs, but they were also business minded. Not all musicians were like that. A lot of musicians that I spoke to from that generation, they made music just out of fun and maybe to impress girls, or I mean, they were not immediately thinking about money. They were already happy if their song came out on a record and they could show it to their friends and girlfriends and just to be proud. Now, Andrew Chambada and Steven Sempasa, they had already been in the business since the late 1950s. So they had seen much more, and they realized they also had that same phase of just enjoying making these songs. But then they also realized it's mainly Indian bosses or Muzungu bosses that are making most of the money, and they thought, wait a minute, we also want to have a piece of that cake. So they realized we have to organize ourselves, and that's what they did by starting UPRS. And the only shame was that it was difficult for them to convince fellow musicians to also register. And because a lot of musicians in those days, they had two choices. Or they make sure that the songs are being registered and that they will get their copyright, but then they don't get the money immediately. So some of these Indian and Muzungu record bosses, they gave them the option, or we give you a lump sum now after the recording, but then we have the copyright over your song, or you wait until we sell copies, and if we only sell 5 copies, you're not going to get much. And if it becomes a hit, then you will make much more than the lump sum that they were offering you. So usually in those days they would give you like 300 shilling for one song, and 300 shilling was almost like a monthly income for, let's say, somebody who works for government at let's say a lower level. So that was very tempting because
Okay, kale bantu bange tukyali ne Mr Mo alimu tunnyonnyola copyright wano e Uganda yatandika etya, era tugambye nti abayimbi baali babiri mu myaka gy'enkaaga, Andrew Chambadde eyali bba w'omugenzi Margaret Nakibuuka ne Steven Sempasa be bafuna ekirowoozo ekyokubeera nga batandikawo UPRS, Uganda Performing Rights Society, ng'erwanirira eddembe ly'abayimbi ku biyiiye byabwe. Naye nti kyali kizibu abamu okubeera nga bakonvisinga abayimbi abalala okubeera nga nabo bagenda bawandiisa ennyimba zaabwe, kubanga nti obudde buli bo baalaba nti abayimbi baali tebafuna mu biyiiye byabwe, ng'abayimbi oba abazungu abaaliwo be baali bafuna, kale ne baleeta enteekateeka eyo. So later, did other artists join them?
Too few. I mean, and of course I have not looked into the books of the UPRS, and I don't even know if they still have these documents of the 1960s. I think they might not have them anymore. So, but I spoke with a lot of musicians of those days, and they told me this. So this is based upon maybe the testimony of 20 different musicians of those days, and all of them gave me the impression that most musicians didn't really join, because of what I just told you, that they could get the lump sum, which was kind of too tempting. You get like almost a month's salary, or you don't get it and you have to wait until your song becomes a hit. So that was the gamble, and I think often they probably made the right gamble, because if your record only sells 300 copies, you might have made the same money as the 300 shilling they would give you. But if we talk about 80,000 copies of Teresa, then you start counting. I mean, I'm not a calculating machine, I don't have it in my head, but you could think that Sebaduka could have made really good money with that and have been able to buy several cars with the money of the royalties of that song. but I doubt if he really had the copyright of that song. I don't think so. That's my fear, but he's not alive anymore, and I spoke with his son, and his son doesn't know these details, so we will never know for sure.
Freddie Selemba, I remember you asked me for his contact, and I gave it to you. So, agamba nti abayimbi bafuna okubuzaabuzibwa nga bana abayimbi oba abazungu bagamba nti ffe tuwe ejjinja eryo oba tuguze ejjinja lyo tukuwe cents bisatu. Omanyi ffe e Uganda twagala nnyo kagwirawo, ate nga bo baali bagezaako basimbira kintu ekigenda okubeerawo lubeerera. Bo abamu kye baali nga ekyo nti kyagenda nga kireeta obuzibu okubeera nga bano abamu bamenyeka emitima okubeera nga beegatta ku baganda baabwe Stephen Sempasa ne Andrew Kyambadde. So is UPRS still alive?
It's still alive, and I think since a couple of years it's doing much better, I think. I also think that still musicians are not very happy with the UPRS up to now, because they are not generating enough money for them. But I think also that this is a process. You have to somehow, I mean, if you have to rebuild an organization like that, that will take time. And I'm not here to make any advertisement for them. I'm not being paid by them to be positive about them. But still, I believe that sometimes if you're building something, it always takes time. I mean, I've done a little bit of research, but I saw that in 2023 they were able to collect around more than 600 million shilling. Now, that is still peanuts, of course, because Uganda is a very big country. There's lots of bars and radio stations, television stations playing Ugandan songs. And if every musician in Uganda would be registered with the UPRS, and they would have more finances to go to radio stations, to go to bars that play music, to kind of enforce their rules, because there's a law that says that you cannot just play a song of a musician without paying him. So I would think if there would be enough enforcement, it would be possible to collect much more money than that 600 million. I mean, you just told me that in 2016 that people were saying that in principle they should be able to collect like $1 billion a month, but now we're talking 2023 they collected 600 million in 1 year. So that is way too little. But on the other hand, I also spoke with some people that own bars, and I was surprised to hear that people of UPRS came to them and that they are now paying the UPRS money every year. So things are happening, but you know, in Uganda things go pole, you know.
Yeah. Kale Mr. Mo tugamba nti eno UPRS it's an enforcement egezaako okubeera nga ekungaanyiza abayimbi ebyobugagga byabwe okuva mu abo ababikozesa, nga UPRS ekungaanya ssente zino okuva ku TV, radios ne abantu abazibbaala. Buli akozesa ekiyiiye oba oluyimba ng'alukozesa for commercial purpose. Then nabano abazi library era nga nabo egira. Era wetuuka mu kifo w'okolera erina olukusa okubeera ng'etikka ebintu byo ebitwale singa oba totuukiriza bukwakulizo okubeera nga obawa kye balina okubeera. Mu 2016 naliko mu lukiiko olumu ku Ambias e Bukesa nga abayimbi beekalakaasa ku kya UPRS n'abazibbaala nti banyigirizibwa ebyuma byabwe babikwata kyokka nga abayimbi, kubanga nzijjukira bakase music recorders yalimu twali ne Mzee Matia Kakumirizi, Matia Luima, Vincent Segawa yali musaale nnyo. Vincent Segawa kubanga obudde obwo mu 2016 ye muyimbi wa Kadongokamu omu ku baali basinga okutunda, naye ng'agamba tafunangako ssente kuva mu UPRS. Mzee Kase Music Recorders ye ng'agamba tafunangako yadde ekikumi, naye nga jjukira nti ye yali nannyini Kase Music Recorders, ekitegeeza nti zino entambi be baazigulanga nga n'ezimu ku nnyimba ze bakuŋŋaanyaamu ssente okuva ku TV radios ne zibbaala zaali zize nga yalina copyright yaazo naye nga tafunangako ssente ate ne mu ttuluba eddala yali muyimbi nga ekitegeeza nti n'ezimu ku nnyimba ze abaana beeyawudde naki tafunangako ku ssente ezo. Kale tukyali ne Mr Mo, tuli mu kunyumyanyumyamu ku Ugandan music, tuli ku copyright tueze nga tujiwulira nti abayimbi bafune copyright, abamu ne bagamba nti babawa ne ba ambassador okubeera nga bateesa ku lwa copyright. That's Eddie Kenzo, ono MP Kiyaga, Hilary Kiyaga nga be bali ku nteekateeka eyo. Naye obudde buno twebuuza UPRS egasa etya omunauganda, UPRS then ne copyright. So Mr Mo, how does copyright work in your country?
Yeah, in the Netherlands, it is very well established, very well organized. I mean, if you have a shop and you're playing the radio in your shop, or you're playing a CD or whatever, you have to pay the UPRS of the Netherlands money. If you don't, and the enforcer comes to pass by and notices that you're not doing that, you are in big trouble. You will get a big fine. So the moment you get a big fine, you will or stop playing music in your shop, or you're going to start paying. Now this has been developed since the 1950s, so we had plenty of years. I think the first years it was also not going perfect. It was maybe comparable to the situation here. But the longer you enforce, then at a certain moment it starts working. And because shops, they want to get customers inside. So if you come into a shop and they're selling clothes and there's no music, it's boring. You know, a customer who's looking for a nice clothing, or a woman that looks for a nice dress, if you come into a shop and there's no nice music sounding, they might not buy anything. So the music is detrimental for the business to sell their goods. Besides the shops, there's of course bars, there's discos, there's radio stations. All of them play music, and they cannot escape paying money to the Dutch version of the UPRS. And it's really working. So people really get paid. But I have to also tell you, there is a lot of musicians that make music, and of course certain songs are real hits, so they get a lot of money. And there's also a lot of people that maybe get played every year just a few times. So if your song is not so famous and it only gets played 20 times in a year, you are not going to get much. You're going to get maybe 5,000 shilling, and that's it. So I think here also in Uganda, sometimes musicians complain about UPRS, oh, they're not paying, but they have also no clue how often their songs are being played. If they're not being played often, then you can't expect anything. Just because your song is registered at the UPRS doesn't mean that it immediately makes money. It has to be played a lot. That's when you can expect money. So real big hits, now I'm not so, I don't know what are the hits at this moment, but let's say a few years back when Afrigo was a really famous band, and some of these songs, I still hear them on the radio sometimes. So a band like that, has been played a lot, so definitely they will then also get more than others.
Yino Chikaya College School essomero eryagulidde erinnya mu kusomesa abaana ate ne bayita ssomero lya ddene boarding mix y'abawala n'abalenzi senior 1 paka senior 6 balina library science ko ne computer labs byonna bijjudde balina arts ne science subjects ko cultural activities ko ne section y'ebyemikono omuli okusiba enviiri okukanika n'ebirala ebigwa mu kkowe eryo omwana n'ava ku ssomero lino ng'ali self contained kyewuunyisa ensimbi zaabwe ze zijja mu nsawo ya buli muzadde basange Chikaya Bulenga Mitiana Road okumanya ebisingawo noti 757 mukaganya emwemu 57.
Okay, could you be knowing the amount of money charged by you, the Dutch copyright?
No, I don't know anything about specific tariffs that you have to pay to the UPRS. I have no clue about that. But it will be a set amount. So they will look at, let's say, shop owners, and they will say, like, on average, if a shop has 100 square meters, then you pay this amount. If the shop is 500 square meters, you pay more. So it depends. So there's so many different rules, like What you exactly have to pay, that I don't know all these details, but it's definitely based upon the size of the place. And then when it comes to radio stations, the radio stations will just have to send every day the list of songs that they have played. They have to send it to the Copyright Association in the Netherlands, and then the Copyright Association knows exactly, oh, this song has been played, and over a whole year they can then break it down and say, oh, this specific song of Beyonce has been played 10,000 times, and maybe another song only 10 times. Now, then it's fair that Beyonce gets more money than the person that only gets paid 5 times.
Okay, kale. Mbuziza Mr Mo nti mu Netherlands bo amanyiko ku bisale bye bakyajinga buli kifo ekisanyukirwamu oba ekizanyirwamu music. Antegeezezza nti mu Netherlands tamanyi ssente naye nti ebiseera ebisinga bakozesa ebipimo. Tugeze nti edduuka lyo liri fits liri square 12 ku 12 obeera osasula ssente za njawulo nono ali mu kaduuka aka fuuti 5 ku 4 nti bo we basinzirira. N'ekirala batunuulira bo balina engeri gye batunuulira nti oluyimba lwa Muzungu David luzanye ku TV oba ku radio kweti emirundi bwegiti kati ebyo bye basinzirirako okubeerayo nga bamugereka ssente zalina okubeera nga afuna ekintu kyatasuubira nti ne wano bwekiri. Mr Mo, another question. Do you think UPRS or Ugandan copyright has benefited Ugandan artists?
Very little, I think. Very little. I mean, it really should grow. And as I said before, the only way you do that is by enforcing these rules much better. So that is the only way in which you can do that. I mean, if you want less accidents on the roads with cars, the only way you solve that is by enforcement and by giving fines. You know, in the Netherlands, we also used to drive like maniacs in the 1970s. And then indeed, and many people got killed and wounded in car accidents. But the moment we started enforcing the rules and especially giving fines, that number went down big time. That is the way, and the same applies to this whole copyright thing. What I also want to add is, and I think that's really important, because a lot of artists are not registering their songs at UPRS. I would really tell musicians, please register these songs, because as long as you complain but you're not registering, you know, what are you complaining about? I mean, your songs are not even registered. So please register your songs. And also, I think to claim back your copyrights also. I don't know, and I'm not an expert in this field, so you have to do a little bit more research there. But let's say Christopher Sebaduka. How many songs did he record? At least like 100, you know, or at least 100 records that he produced. These songs, I don't think they're copyrighted at all. I would say to the son, please go and register your father's song. The only thing you have to do is go to the website of UPRS and you have to register your name for free, and then you can upload those songs or you can register the songs. You have to say the name of the song, the length of the song, the number of minutes, but please, you know, you have to tell all your friends that are musicians, go and register your songs, because as long as you don't register, all your complaining is in vain, you know. But the moment your songs are registered, then you have more say, and also at the same time, sometimes a song might even be wanted outside. I think I told you before there was a song of the Cranes done by Tony Senkebedje, and that song was used in a series in America, and he made good money with that. So
and even the late Bernard Kabanda, who Olugendo lw'e Bulaaya was used in a film called Hotel Rwanda. Yeah,
and that can easly bring $1,000, $2,000 just by using that song.
Yes, and it's the real record label of Sweden which benefited because it's the one managing the properties of the late Salongo Bernard Kabanda.
Yeah, but I think that album that Kabanda made, that was on a real official label, and Kabanda definitely had his copyright on that one. I don't think that label was fooling around with Kabanda, because that was a very serious English label. I don't think that they fooled him. They must have given him his due royalties, but of course he died very soon after recording that record, so I don't know if the family stepped in or was aware of this copyright situation. I don't know about that.
The Rio record label of Sweden,
yeah,
which is responsible for all that.
Yeah, but that label was called Real World, and it was owned by a musician called Peter Gabriel, and he comes from the UK, so I think the label was based in the UK,
okay.
And I'm almost certain that there was no foul play. Now, there's another thing, of course, when a deal is being made, the managers always get most money, and the record companies always get most money. I mean, even in the West, you know, in the 1960s and 70s, many musicians were in that sense not fairly treated. But that's just the name of the game, you know, and even today it's like that, you know. I mean, a musician gets maybe 15% of everything, and that is just the way things are, and you're not going to change that very quickly. But still, the 15% over $10,000 could still be a nice amount, eh? So you can also look at it from that perspective.
Okay, kale. Bantu bange nkyali ne Mr Mo tutematema ensonga za UPRS agambye nti abayimbi kyandibadde kirungi bagende bawandiise ennyimba zaabwe, nti osobola n'okutuula ku kompyuta yo n'owandiisa oluyimba oteekayo amanya go, kugeza nze Muzungu David, then n'owandiisa oluyimba kirabo kyange, n'olaga oluyimba olwo luliko buwanvu ki, ekitegeeza nti awo osobola okudimandinga UPRS okubanga ekulaga ebiyiiye ebyo butya weebikozeseza, abantu bwe babikozeseza na butya bw'obifunyeemu okusinziira ku ebyo bye basolozesa. Mr Mo, before we conclude, you advised Ugandan artists to go to UPRS and register their music.
But you can do it online,
Yes.
so you don't even have to go to their building, you just have to go to their website.
Yes.
Now I know that maybe because everything is written in English there, I don't think it's written in Uganda, so sometimes maybe for Kadongokamu artists, they're not always that versatile maybe with English, but they can find their son or daughter that is very good in English to help them out. But I really, you know, I really think they should put more effort into registering these songs, you know. Okay, maybe they don't make any money out of it, but you never know. Maybe in 5 years' time, and I mean that song that I was telling you about of Tony Senkebeji, he wrote that song in 1974, and it was a very James Brown-like song. And in Uganda it was not popular at all. But 50 years later, suddenly that song made him money. And if it had not been registered, or then all this would not have happened, because then they would have just taken the song and not even paid him anything. The moment you're registered and somebody steals your song, you can start a court case.
Don't you think UPRS needs some transparency?
In any organization, transparency is important. So I have not studied the UPRS about that, so I don't know.
Because depending on the little I know about UPRS and what I've talked with Ugandan country music artists, Kadongokamu artists, is that they don't see any transparency with UPRS as an organization.
Yeah. Now that means that they have to even sit more together with them to talk this through. And there needs to be more discussion, because out of that somehow there will come a resolution that somehow maybe trust can be built. I told you that even in the 1960s and 70s, I spoke with Steven Sempasa a lot about this whole copyright issue, and even then, you know, there was so much mistrust, and what we have to get rid of is this mistrust. And even if maybe in the past people have been fooled and all that, still there's a future ahead of us, so we can better try to find a way of sitting around the table and talk these things through properly. But also, I also beg these musicians not to think too big, because, you know, if your song only gets played 10 times in a year, you cannot expect any money, you know. I mean, your song also has to be really popular to gather some amount of money. So sometimes I think also musicians are not looking at this realistically enough. So the whole time I'm trying to stick in the middle somewhere. I don't want to accuse anybody, but you have to talk about all these facts together and sit down together. And if it's true what I say, then a musician should also be willing to admit that maybe he is exaggerating his wishes, you know.
Yeah, in 2016, when I was in the other meeting, there were some artists who ordered those people of bars that you play our music. When UPRS comes, please call us. And not until UPRS tells us how much they give us out of our music. So that's the transparency I was talking about.
Yeah.
Then another thing, copyright was there, and in 90s it was very strong, because on each tape I see there is copyright by the company, the company which produced that tape. So my question is, where did copyright disappear from?
I think in those days, those companies, I think, worked the same way as the record companies did before.
Don't you
that.
think somewhere, somehow, UPRS failed to cooperate with these guys?
I think
Because
so. Yeah.
these are the people who implemented copyright. And during the time of Uganda Music Publishers Association, WUMPA, there was no recopying.
Yeah,
or
but what happens with these companies also, I think, is that they would give a lump sum to the musician. So the musician came with an album to all these different companies that were there, and there were a few really big ones, and they would make a deal. So maybe Chameleon with his first tapes. I mean, I remember when I was just here in Uganda, that
Mamma Mia.
Dorothy or the Mamma Mia tape, that he got like 10 million, I believe. So the one who was producing these tapes had to at least sell as many tapes that he gets his 10 million back, and then every tape he sells more, that would be his profit. But what if he would have sold for 50 million worth of tapes? Then Chameleon would only have gotten 20% of the whole. So I think that these people that were producing these tapes, at least they were making deals with these musicians, exactly the way the record companies were doing with their musicians. But it's still a lump sum being paid, and I don't think that these people that were making these tapes were giving royalties. They were giving a lump sum.
So I tried to talk to these guys of Uganda Music Publishers Association. More so, their secretary is called Kakande, the brother to the late Hassan Kasule. He told me this: artists used to go to these companies and ask for money, so others were paid in advance. And he told me that there are those who died even without paying or producing their albums, which they had promised to give the company.
So it's not only the companies or the UPRS who are doing bad things, but it's also sometimes the musicians that are not sticking to their promises. Then, so that's what I'm saying. There are so many different angles to this problem. So the only way you can solve that is by more often sitting around the table and understanding each other's position. You are the musician. Let's say I am the businessman that is selling your music, and then there's other players. I mean, the whole value chain of this thing should sit together and think about the future, and not see each other as enemies or as, oh, but you're trying to fool me, or, you know, this mistrust has to be cut away. I know it's difficult, but the moment, if I compare it to the copyright situation in the Netherlands, there's no musician that is complaining, even if they're not getting any money, you know, because they will get a list from the Copyright Association in the Netherlands every year that just shows them your song has only been played 5 times, so that's why we can't give you anything. So that is what should happen here also. Transparency also means that at the end of the year, the artist should get like a list that just shows you how often you've been played. And then you have proof, like, okay, next time I have to make a better hit, you know, to get more people playing my song or buying my MP3 or...
Okay, so who are the beneficiaries from an article copyrighted? For example, like this album, who benefits?
Well, as long as there was a deal between the business and the musician, be it a lump sum or a promise that they would see how many copies are being sold, and then based upon the number of copies sold, they are being given royalties.
I think
Both are benefiting, I guess. But if you make a bad deal, I mean, if you come with your tape and you're satisfied with me telling you I'm going to give you 100,000 shilling and you don't bargain with me and then I make 1 million, I mean, it's also partly your fault because you're not bargaining well enough with me. So it's a business. I mean, it's not like set in stone that a musician... you know, should always be treated fairly. I mean, you know, in business is not really fair in a way, is it not? I mean, when I come and buy a tape here and you're telling me, no, I want 50,000 for it, but maybe I can sell it for 100,000. I don't know. You know, business is business. I mean, it's not...
Okay. Because if it's copyright, I think everyone who owned an idea behind the production of this has the rights over this. And here in Uganda, copyright is only helping artists.
Yeah, you know, the problem is that the copyright is often bought by the company, and that's where it goes wrong. You should always keep the copyright, you know, and that's why you have to be registered somewhere.
Even those who did the instruments, who played the instruments, owns this, and they have a percentage. The one who composed owns a percentage.
Yeah.
So I think Uganda UPRS has to do more than what they have done to teach our Ugandan artists about what copyright is. A number of them, they are just talking about copyright. We want copyright, but they don't know what copyright is.
Yeah.
Copyright even works on
a book.
Books. I heard that when you go to a publisher,
let's not go into that issue because it will just make me sick.
I wanted to publish my book.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a book, Kadongokamu, Ekitundu Ekisooka, meaning the story of Ugandan country music part 1.
Yeah.
And I reached one of the publishers and he was like, oh yeah, if we publish for you, you'll be given 8%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like...
But that's also in Europe. I mean, most people that write, certainly when you write the first book, you might not get more than 8%. That's kind of a standard. Or you have to be a good negotiator, or you have to show that your product is really good, and then maybe he will give you more. But that is indeed... But that's what I'm saying, you know. I mean, we're living in a society, in a capitalistic society. So it's take it or not, or take it or leave it. I mean, you know, you can say, oh, 8% is too little, I don't want that. Now, then your book is not going to get published. Or you have to find your own money and have it printed with your own money, and then you are the boss over your own book. So that's why a lot of writers in Uganda do exactly that.
And even during the time of tapes, a number of artists resorted to producing their own music.
Yeah, but then you also have to distribute it yourself.
They claimed that these companies were paying them less.
Yeah, and that is true.
Compared to if they produce them themselves.
Yeah, but that problem, even in the West, is there, you know, that indeed the percentage that the artist gets is very minimal, and you wonder, like, but the artist is the one who created it.
I remember in 2016 I was talking to the late Innocent Amos Sechilemba. He told me he produced his album Mwana Muwala N from Kasiukila, and he paid around 2 million because he had just come back from Japan. He had money, produced it at 2 millions. Then when he reached Kasiukila, he told him, I'm buying you 800,000 shillings.
Yeah.
He produced from his studio. He paid 2 millions. Then when time of publishing came, he approached Kasiukila. Kasiukila told him, I'm paying you 800,000 shillings. Nkusasula emitwalo 8.
Yeah.
So nga ye yamuwa obukadde bubiri.
So he would lose 1.2.
1.2.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
So there he decided to publish that tape himself. He was traveling with the late poker fellow.
And he was just selling it to people left and right, or put it in
shows,
shops.
Yeah, he used to sell his tapes in music shows.
So did he tell you also how much money he made by doing it that way?
Yes, he told me he accumulated enough amount.
Yeah, more than the 2 million that he invested. Yeah, that's good. So, you know, that's the choice you sometimes have to make, but then you need to have that money to invest in your own product. But indeed, sometimes I would advise to do it that way.
And even there are those who got nothing. They used to go to those producing companies.
Yeah.
They produced their tapes. After they told them, you wait, you don't have a name.
Yeah, but still I believe
your tape becomes popular. It's when you get some amount.
Yeah, but still I believe Uganda is getting more and more professional. I've been here now 25 years, and if I compare to when I just arrived here, Uganda has become so much more professional in every field, you know. So, you know, if once I flew over Uganda and you see how developed it is, you know, I mean, slowly there's going to be money in this country. People are going to have a better life. They're going to spend money on music. Maybe not yet now. But that's why I'm saying start registering your songs before somebody steals them from you. Because if you don't register and it's 50 years ago, your copyrights are gone. That is the law of Uganda. Eh?
Yeah, after 50 years.
So you have, and certainly, I mean, the 50-year rule is there when a company bought your rights. You know, then after 50 years, it's gone.
Okay, kale bantu bange nkyali ne Mr Mo era nga tugezaako okubeera nga tunyumyanyumyamu ku copyright. Tutegeezezza tubaddeko off air n'atutegeeza nti copyright eno ekola oluvannyuma lwa myaka 5 nga omaze okuregistaringa oluyimba lwo. Oluyimba olwo emyaka egyo wekiggwayo famire eyo esobola okubeera nga efunako percentage eteyenkana eri, ate obuyinza oluvannyuma budda mu public olwo oluyimba oba ekiyiiye ekyo nekifuuka kya buli omu ng'asobola okikozesa ekirala. Era kino kyemmanyi nti ennyimba mpitirivu eziri e Uganda ziri out of copyright. Bazivunaanyizibwako naye nga tezikyali mu mateeka. Then there is a lot of gambling eri mu UPRS kubanga tetumanyi bakozesa terminologies ki okubeera nga bakuŋŋaanya ssente naye Mr Mo, how is it done in Netherlands? Is it that at the end of the day radio stations or TV stations sends a list to UPRS of Netherlands?
That is exactly the way it
about
happens.
How many songs?
Which songs is
have been
special?
played?
Yeah.
So here in Uganda, we don't know how it is done.
I think that the UPRS knows that that is the way it happens in Europe. But I think also UPRS doesn't have enough capacity. You know, they don't have enough people working for them to go to these radio stations and be a bit more enforcing. And maybe at a radio station they say, you go. Or, you know, it's. I think the radio stations are just calculating. Like now it happens that they come to a radio station and say, this is your bill every month. and somehow the radio station is then calculating, is this in our favor or not?
Negotiating.
But it's better to do it more precise. So I would say, there is need for more enforcement, but it also means that the 600 million shilling that was collected in 2023, I mean, you have to pay the office of the UPRS, you have to pay the people that are working for UPRS. So how much of that money goes to just, keeping that office going, So that's also partly the problem, because it almost then looks as if the money collected is kind of keeping the people that work at UPRS alive and going.
Don't you think UPRS is going to force Ugandan media houses to start playing music from abroad?
Yeah, because there maybe they could get away with paying copyrights, although they should also pay the copyrights for a song from the Netherlands. But because the Netherlands is so far away, they know these people in the Netherlands are not going to come and drag us to court over a song that's being played in Uganda. So that's why you see also so many outside movies that are just being copied on DVD. You can get away with that because these outside companies, I mean, that little money that they're losing out in Uganda, it's not worth to fight over. But the principle of it is not okay. It's not okay to steal these films from outside, to steal music from outside. It kind of breeds a kind of way of thinking that also affects how you think about your fellow Ugandans that are creating things. And that's why I would say it's better to be as honest as possible with each other.
Does UPRS charge even those who are having social media apps?
That I don't know. I am not an expert. I think you should really, next episode, you should bring somebody from UPRS here.
Okay.
Because this topic, should be dug in much deeper, because that can't be solved with just this little conversation between you and me. And I'm not even an expert. I'm just using my brain and thinking.
Because we might be having two corporate companies. On YouTube, a number of Ugandan music is copyrighted, and it's the individual, the third parties are the one benefiting from the rights of artists. For example, the song of Mzee Matia Akubiriza Mukyala Nagujja is having 1.4 million views.
Really?
Yet I'm sure some days he stops.
Yeah, look at that. So he should definitely get some money from that person that is using his song to make money, because 1.4 million hits on YouTube, how much money do you get from it? Do you know this?
Yes.
Is that like $1,000 or more? Or
because YouTube pays 1.94 per 1,000 views.
So a million is how much then?
So it's just a matter of dividing 1.4 million views by 1,000. Then what you get, you multiply with 1.94.
Yeah, so that's more than $1,000, isn't it? I mean, it's maybe almost $2,000. So that's not very fair, that somebody's using Matthias' song and he or she is making money out of his song. So yeah, you should warn Mattia. But then maybe Matthias' song is not even there at UPRS, So how is he going to fight this person, if he's not even having the backing of the UPRS? That's why I keep on saying, even if in the beginning you're not making any money out of registering your song at the UPRS, but from a legal point of view, you have something to stand on, But if you're not even registered, then a judge will also say, are you a serious musician? You're not even registering your songs. He's not even going to take you serious. So that's why I keep on hammering on that fact, Register your songs. You don't even have to pay money for it. I spoke with a musician recently. He spent 2-3 days, registering all the songs he did in the last 40 years. And he doesn't know if he's going to get any money out of it. But what if somebody suddenly does what this man or woman did with Matia Kakemirizi's song? Then this musician suddenly can knock on his door and say...
I remember one day, there is an artist called Irene Namubiru. So one day she posted on her YouTube, her Facebook. She wanted to upload her own music, but it's unfortunate that Facebook sent her a message that you don't have rights to upload this article on your platform because it's copyrighted by someone.
Yeah, but maybe by some company that she once made a deal with. Could be, eh? Or maybe somebody that just uploaded a song for the first time and was kind of claiming that he has the copyright over that song.
Yes.
So all this means, you know, that you have to, because if she registered that song, then she can fight this whole issue and she can make sure that she can publish that song. But you need to register your songs. If you don't do that, you have nothing to stand on and people can keep on milking you.
Okay. Your conclusion?
I think that's my conclusion. I just wish that all these musicians in Uganda, please start registering your songs. You don't have to pay any money for it. The only thing you have to do is waste some time in doing so, you know. But if they're all registered, then you can go and sleep. And the moment that you hear that somebody is misusing your song, you call UPS and say, there's a guy fooling around with my song. And then they will get into action because then maybe they will also, out of that court case, get their share. And so register your songs. That is, I think, my main message.
Okay, kale bantu bange bwentyo bwendabise ne Seruganda Mr Mo. Entakera ntera okubeera naye nga tukola ebintu bino. Bino byonna bye mulaba. These are the tapes we got from the other side. Ebintu bino tukola naye tukungaanya ebintu bino okubeera nga tuleeta ebintu bya Uganda okubeera nga bibeera wamu.
Yino Chikaya College School essomero eryegulidde erinnya mu kusomesa abaana ate ne bayita ssomero lya day boarding mix y'abawala n'abalenzi senior 1 paka senior 6 balina library science kone computer labs byonna bijjudde balina arts ne science subjects co-curricular activities kone section y'ebyemikono omuli okusiba enviiri okukanika n'ebirala ebigwa mu kkowe eryo omwana n'ava ku ssomero lino ng'ali self contained kyewuunyisa ensimbi zaabwe zeze zijja mu nsawo ya buli muzadde basange Chikaya Bulenga Mitiana Road okumanya ebisingawo noti 757 mukaaga 4 1 5 5